This movie is far more comedic than I thought it was when we walked into it again.
Amicable is one way to put it.
It's one way to put it.
I would call it slave labor. It was the one moment going into it, I'm like, I'm not looking forward to this.
Don't want this one.
I'm not looking forward to this.
I got to actually look this up because I did not know about this. And welcome back to another episode of Pinoys versus the World. My name is Harald Hilseth.
My name is Chris Ankiko.
And Chris, we're back outside in the backyard, bringing you an episode on the first NFL Sunday of the year, at least for us, not something we necessarily want to talk about. You can get from our Seattle talk and my garb currently. Just not a good game for the Hawks. But Chris, I don't know. Maybe I'll throw it over to you because this guy's football coded AF. Not going to lie to you. This man knows ball. This man knows ball. Yeah. Was not a good game.
It was just not a good game. Mm-mm. I mean, the defense played well for the most part, but the offense was just way too conservative. If you're a football fan and you saw that game, you know what I'm talking about. And Rick Woolen, he kind of blew the house or whatever. You know, I'm trying to think of the term, but that's what I can come up with right now. Just kind of gave it away in a lot of ways, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
You're doing more than I could do for the club, but like we've talked about in the past, we're gonna let the real ball knowers like Mina Kimes and Brett Coleman talk about this week in football. But we are here today to talk to you about something much more joyful. Actually, one of our favorite movies, I'd probably say, of all time, given the score that we gave it afterwards, but also from one of our favorite film franchises of all time. We're talking about Star Wars today, folks, as you've probably gotten from the title. Specifically, the best Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back from 1980. If you're in Seattle right now, SIFF is showing at SIFF Downtown, used to be called the Cinerama. All Star Wars movies, including the couple that are in between episodes 7, 8, and 9, like Rogue One and the Han Solo Star Wars story.
Between the prequel and originals.
Oh, and canonically, but released in the Disney era. I probably should have said Disney era. It's a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
But canonically in between those 2 years. Obviously, we've talked on the pod before about Andor, something we love, an easy 5 out of 5. And also episode 3, which also got released earlier this year. What was it? It was celebrating 20 years this
20
year.
Years.
20 years is
20
April.
Years. Yeah.
But I didn't think that we'd be seeing, let alone The Empire Strikes Back on the big screen
Like all of them.
It's
because
wild.
I actually, we're not going to talk about this one, but I got a chance to watch A New Hope right before we saw Empire. So back to back. I'll probably because of that, I'll probably blend in some observations that I had from that showing as well with this. But yeah, in general, we will be talking about Empire. But yeah, interesting thing that SIFF is doing. I never thought, especially by the end of this year, because obviously, again, you just talked about the Revenge of the Sith re-release, that the SIFF would just be like, we're just gonna come with all of them.
Oh yeah,
because we're 2 years away from Star Wars' 50th anniversary, so we're not quite there yet. So it's just interesting that they just chose this year to just be like, all right, let's just do it. And but it's going pretty well for them. I mean, the two showings I went to for New Hope, and then when we went to Empire, sold out. So I mean, it was very cool to
house.
We've grown up with these, for decades now, just watching them on TV, obviously, because there was no way to watch them in a theater. But it's I think we'll definitely talk about it. But the experience of watching these movies with a crowd is so different. The energy, it's
plus 5% or a 5% just general fun times for all when you get a chance to watch it with other folks. Especially, I mean, you're talking about it right now, super fans. I mean, there was just super fans in there. Who else is pulling up to episode 5? I mean, a lot of people, because there were a lot of super fans of Star Wars. But no, the energy was high, and it was just a good time, especially from the beginning. Title crawl, just cheers from the very beginning, and kind of similar to when we watched episode 3. People repeating lines, we know the big ones are coming up, if they're memes or not, or some beloved, just universally beloved scenes come from this film. But Chris, I'm just going to throw it over to you before we jump into stuff like the music, some plot points, experience at the theater in general. Let's talk about some background, because you own a lot of copies of this movie.
Yeah, I just wrote in the notes before.
The notes have them.
Right before we started recording that. I own 6 copies of this movie that I've collected over
incredible
my lifetime. So I have first one I got was from a 3-disc original trilogy DVD box set. So that has just the regular DVD from 04. And then in 07, they released a 2-disc pack with that same version. And then
a new version.
And then the 1980 version, which is the original, no effects edited, no effects in there. Like the compositing is all the same, and like certain scenes are not in there because they're in the 04 or whatever. It's basically the original version of what people saw, as close as they could find to that original version that people saw in 1980. And it's just, we'll talk about some of the differences in this one that I noticed, but. Yeah, it's just, so that's kind of a fun, rare copy that I get to own. It also has a demo of Lego Star Wars 2.
Oh my God.
The original trilogy on it.
Talk about a retrospective we might have to do one day.
So you can throw it in you can throw it in the old Xboxes from back in the day, and you can play a demo of Lego Star Wars 2, which is so funny. Then I own a 2011, there was a complete release in Blu-ray for the first time of the complete saga. It's literally called Star Wars: The Complete Saga. It has all 6 of the movies. With additional special edition features, and these are the versions that are like being released in the theaters.
The George Lucas versions.
These George Lucas 2011 special editions. And then there are like 3 bonus discs with a bunch of like making of features and like spoofs and all that other stuff. So that's another version. And then recently I got, because I just got a 4K Blu-ray player, and I got the 4K version of The Empire Strikes Back, which itself also comes with an additional Blu-ray copy of the movie. So you're thinking, wow, this guy's crazy. But yeah, so I own
Guinness World Record.
I own 6 copies of this movie. Return of the Jedi, I own 5, and one of them, fun fact, is a rental from Blockbuster that I could not find for months. And so then I remember as a kid, we couldn't find the disc.
Did you have to pay?
No.
Oh, shout out Blockbuster.
I was a kid. I was like probably like 7 or 8 years old.
Yep.
And we went back there, and it was just like, oh, like I'm sorry, I can't find it. And the guy, the lady at the desk, she was like, "You're fine." And then like
look at my vest right now.
And then a couple months later, I found it, and so I just have it now. Yeah,
likely story and Kiko family.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, yeah, if there's any old Blockbuster execs out there just watching this, lambasting in your millions,
there you go. I just doxed myself.
Yeah, you could have had $5 more. There
you go.
But no, it's always fun to talk about too, like kind of how these like movies that came out 10 to 15 years before we were even thoughts in our parents' brains, you know what I mean? Like, we're all kind of late 90s kids. Like, we grew up with the prequels. At least for me, we've talked about this before. I don't even know if I talked about it on the pod. Like, the first movie for Star Wars that I ever saw was The Force Awakens in theaters, actually at SIFF Downtown when it was called Cinerama. Incredible experience. I mean, like we said at the top, Star Wars movies in general are just meant to be seen with other people, no matter when you see it, but especially on the big screen. And I've never seen this film on the big screen, so it was an absolute treat. And I'm just going to transition us into talking about the music. We're making an emphasis about doing this now because we never remember to do it. And like for movies like this, we got to start talking about John Williams cooking in this. I mean, the king of the 80s, late 70s, and the 90s for a lot of major blockbusters in the United States and worldwide. But I would argue that Episode 5 is some of his finest work in the career. I mean, you got everything. Nothing beats the title crawl. We want to talk about reactions that you can get every single time out of a theater whenever you're watching a Star Wars film. This is the title crawl from the very beginning. Yoda's theme, Han and Leia's theme. Interestingly enough, I didn't know it was called Han Solo and the Princess technically, and eventually evolves into being Han and Leia's general theme in the sequels especially. Force theme always hits, and big emphasis on the Imperial March. Want to list out those songs in particular, but let's get talking about the music, because the music is spectacular. It is the backbone of any good Star Wars film. I mean, it actually makes some of the worst Star Wars films digestible because of how good the music. And these themes that were created around the time John Williams was working with George on this stuff, just stood the test of time, Chris.
Well, music is an essential part of Star Wars. There's no Star Wars without the music. I mean, they're truly like different types of movies. Even I know there's that one scene at the end of A New Hope where like everyone in the throne room is like getting their medals. No one is talking the whole time. There's like that bad lip reading video or whatever it is.
Throw it up.
Yeah, that bad lip reading video, whatever the channel is. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but here's the video.
No, it's bad lip reading.
It is bad lip reading?
It is.
Yeah, it's just like of the throne room without music, and it's just lots of weird like mouth sounds and like Chewbacca doing this really like bad roar. It's one of the best videos.
It's like, where's my medal, dog?
Yeah, I was just like
crazy.
I was just like tearing up, laughing the first time I saw it. I was like, this is an incredible idea. I'm surprised no one ever thought of it before this, but it's very good. But that just goes to show you that like the music is really a huge priority in these movies. And yeah, just like all of them, Empire's got, like you just said, like great music. I mean, the Imperial March, that was the one thing I was really looking forward to when the first time you see the Star Destroyers and you hear the music. I'm just like, wow, like seeing that in a room with just a bunch of people. And I definitely will be broken record about like seeing this in a room with a bunch of people, seeing insert element here in a room with a bunch of people was a cool experience. But that's just the first thing that I can think of. It's just like, wow, that was pretty sweet.
I don't know if you picked up on this in the theater. There was a couple like kiddos, like younger kids sitting behind us, and I remember they were talking throughout, as any kid would in a movie like this. I mean, it's probably spectacular watching this at a young age for the first time on the big screen, 40 years after it came out. But one of the funniest moments, and also like just heartwarming for me, was when the Imperial March plays for the first time, and I heard one of the kids go, "Oh," like kind of like, all right. We got goosebumps. We're experiencing goosebumps right now. I mean, that's entirely what it felt like too, being in there, even as at our age, after seeing these movies plenty of times, and even outside of not seeing this movie on the big screen ever, it's been years since I've seen The Empire Strikes Back. So seeing like all of this, like very impressive practical effects. We'll talk about that stuff later in the movie. But even like when you're on Hoth, like my God, the music playing in the background, most of the music playing on Hoth and what John Williams composed isn't necessarily even the top 5 pieces of music that I listed out when we started talking about the music here, but it just hits, and there's something special about it. Especially shout out any place you can go with Dolby audio, like that stuff is not a gimmick. That's real. It sounds so good.
I'm wondering about like what copy of like, just to get real nerdy and stuff about it. I don't know like what like version of the movie they got. It was from a DVD that they were projecting on the screen, or did they get it from like Lucasfilm? Because that would have made I'm sure if you get like a certain copy from like the horse's mouth, it would make a huge difference. So I'm interested to SIFF, if you're watching this.
I'm about to say Seattle International Film Festival in the comments below.
I'd love to know if this is like just a personal copy that someone owns, or if this was like from Lucasfilm or someone who's like related to their like distribution. So that's my nerd moment of the day.
Hey, I mean, what nerds don't have a podcast about random movies, especially one that was released in 1980. So yeah, SIFF, we're adding you in the comments below. Time to chat a little bit though. Speaking of SIFF Downtown and just the general experience to end that conversation as well, it's a funny movie. This movie is far more comedic than I thought it was when we walked into it again. I've not seen it for years, and then Yoda's incredible. I think Harrison Ford is like looking like he's having a lot of fun, given all the recent jargon, especially since the sequels, and like all of these big companies are just parading our poor man out there. I mean, he's saying yes to this, like being like a general face of a lot of nerd franchises, but we know he's kind of sick of it. He's like, you should have killed me off was he supposed to get killed off in episode 5? And they were like, nah, you got to come back.
I think he thought he wasn't coming back. I think that's the big thing, is that like he gets frozen in carbonite, and then maybe you don't make a third movie, or he's just dead in there, and then like that's it. So like, it's funny. At least the Han Solo, like the Harrison Ford cheat code is if he's looks like he's about to die, or if he thinks he's about to die, he gives it his all. Oh, yeah. He really like Empire, he's doing the most. Like he's acting circles around everyone.
Yes, from the minute he's on screen,
and you really, again, that's another thing, in a theater with a bunch of people on a big screen, the comedic moments, like I noticed them a lot more, because I'm like, okay, like what are people responding to that maybe I missed when just watching it by myself. And a lot of the stuff that Harrison Ford says, you can just tell out of the three of them, the three main actors. At that point, he is by far the most experienced actor and the most charismatic of basically everyone that's in that movie. Like he really like steals scenes, but he's doing it like in character. He's not doing like gags or anything. It's just like he's just the character. He's like being real like flirtatious with Leia, and like that stuff, like
he's a scoundrel for real.
That stuff really lands in when you're watching it like in that big format, and you're not like skipping around to the fights. I think that's the big thing, is like when when you watch it at home, obviously you can easily skip to your favorite moments or whatever, but like when you're watching it the whole way through and you really get to like see every scene, you're like, wow, you know what, that actually does land with a lot of people. So I was like, that was a very interesting experience to see some of the scenes. You're like, oh yeah, that's cool.
You're like, yeah, they got the comedic chops down a little bit. I mean, I got to also mention at the top, this movie is not directed by George Lucas. I mean, you would talk
Irvin Kershner, Irvin Kershner, yeah. And like, I've seen so many, like, I'm sure there's so many breakdown videos of like, Empire and the Return of the Jedi, all the way like the Star Wars things are filmed and whatever. But Like the way, just the shot choices of it, and also too, I think I saw one video specifically from Nerdwriter about the different ways that the directors filmed Darth Vader, which was a very interesting one. Maybe we can pop that one up here as well, just at least to recommend. But you know, it comes down to like the relationship between like Vader's like suit and also just the way the different environments you put him in. Because like in Empire, Vader's suit is much glossier than it is in A New Hope.
That's
it looks
very
very
true.
like matte, I guess. Or
because
like,
you watch these back to back.
Yeah,
too,
it's
like
not like the Vader suit is like, it's not very shiny in A New Hope, but it's very like glossy in A New Hope. And like there's different ways where, especially like in the scenes in like Cloud City, especially when like him and Luke like meet for the first time, he's completely silhouetted. There's a bunch of like, it's the whole like the clouds and the smoke in the background, and he's just a complete like jet black figure.
Yeah.
And like just in this environment, and like so you like not even Luke can see the feature because he's never seen Darth Vader before in his life. He's never seen his father, spoiler alert, before in his life. So
biggest spoiler alert.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to see like that's his first introduction to him. Is like he knows he's like this Dark Lord of the Sith, and like even then his whole like everything is revealed to him as that fight goes on, like his appearance, and then like what he's actually doing there and why he's obsessed with finding him. So
it's also, I mean, this is a side note even from Darth Vader talk, but there's a lot of fog in this movie. They had the fog machines cranked up to like 13 for like shots on Cloud City, like when they're trying to fix the Falcon. I've been saying Falcon my whole life. Millennium Falcon. Han. Get Han Solo. Shout out Billy D. Williams. The pronunciations of things in this movie and like characters and objects I've been pronouncing, I guess, wrong my whole life. But we're gonna go with Falcon for this one. Even on Hoth in particular too, there's a lot of like fog just like happening at all times. Maybe we just throw it over unless you want to say something about A New Hope.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing, I mean, I have it in the notes here, but I think I definitely want to get to it now, is that you can really tell like on a theater screen, on a big screen, what is, I think a bee just flew in my face. You can really tell. Bee alert. You can really tell on the big screen what is part of the original movie and what is digitally inserted afterward.
Like the film,
whether it's
is like coming out a lot
1997
more.
or 2004. Like the film, like obviously film you can like infinitely like remaster. That's why you can get like these 4K re-releases of these super old ass movies. But like when you do your effects on like a like a digital environment, or it looks like a shot on a camcorder, you can't really do much to it after the fact. There's like some scenes in, especially again, A New Hope, where they add shots of like the stormtroopers and like the dewbacks like looking for evidence of 3PO and R2, and it's a completely different shot. It's not in the movie, but it's like the CGI dewback and a bunch of troopers who are clearly wearing different uniforms that were made at a different time, and they cut to a shot from the original movie, and they just side by side. The original shot just looks way better.
What a wild concept to even like think about the special editions and how they did all of that. I mean, we were talking about even in A New Hope, the addition of putting CGI Jabba the Hutt in episode 4 and putting Harrison Ford, like physically taking a Harrison Ford from 1977 and moving him up and down.
I think that's from like the 1997 release,
right?
The special edition release. Then also too, I think the other reason is like they have to introduce. I'm sure George was like, we need to introduce that Jabba is pursuing Han, and that's the reason why Boba wants to capture him and bring him to Jabba. And then you have to show Boba Fett, which is so funny because like back in the day, they did a scene with Boba Fett and just didn't put it in the movie. Obviously, someone out there can correct me if I'm wrong, if that was like shot later. But like it's so funny that it's just like it's in the movie. It's like
now
was Boba Fett like there like in 1976? Were they thinking that far ahead? Like I have no idea, but it's just one of those changes. Because also there's 1997 changes and there's 2004 changes, which is what we'll talk about too. Like one of them is here, like jumping around here, is the Emperor Palpatine. Like when Darth Vader first, the first appearance of the Emperor in the original trilogy is, originally it is an old lady who has prosthetic like monkey eyes and is dubbed over by a man. So that's kind of wild. And the dialogue is different too. It's like we have a new enemy, Luke Skywalker. But in the like 04 version, which apparently Ian McDiarmid shot while Revenge of the Sith was going on. So
that's kind of sick though.
Yeah, so he had all the Emperor garb, and I'm sure George was just like, you know what? At the end of the day, come over to this booth, and we're doing like we're redoing the Empire again. I'm sure he was like, again? And it's like, yeah, we're gonna put you in it. We're gonna put you in it, and you're gonna say this other stuff. So like they have to say like the rebel who destroyed the Death Star. He's the son of Anakin Skywalker. And
all the exposition.
It makes that conversation look like they're Vader and the Emperor just like gaslighting each other the entire time. It's like they obviously know that the whole story. We've seen it, and like they know that there's children,
right,
and stuff. So it's very funny that the way that George decided to go back and do it. But I think
it's the galaxy's most toxic duo.
No. Oh, for sure.
Most toxic relationship, honestly. Like we've talked about this in the past. Like those two, they don't get along. They get along, but they don't get along. It's like an amicable relationship with the boss that you really wish you didn't work for.
Amicable is one way to put it.
It's one way to put it.
I would call it slave labor.
Talk about it because it's true. It's true.
Because I mean, he like locks him in a suit and he's just like, this
is your life now.
And he gaslights, like the whole relationship with him and as Darth Vader starts with a big gaslight because he's like, oh, like where's Padme? Oh, like you killed her, man.
That's not you, my dog.
Isn't that crazy, dude? Isn't that crazy that you did that? I guess you have nothing else to do but work for me now.
Yeah, do you want to do it? You already signed a contract when you were like in a comatose.
Also, I paid for all your medical bills and gave you a cool breathing suit. So like, I think you have to work for me now.
TBH, bro, you look good.
Yeah.
From my point of look at me.
I was like, I designed
He's like, look at me.
Yeah, I wonder who does. Okay, that's a good, funny tangent. Who designed the Darth Vader suit canonically? Did the Emperor was like, I got some cool ideas for my new slave apprentice?
Or is it one of his right hand like alien folk that are on the side of him at the Emperor? Like they're actually like partial. One of them's like on the side.
Wikipedia definitely has this answer, and we'll probably look this up. Maybe one of you does. But you know
we
what?
might have to toss up some Wikipedia.
We might have to toss up some lore dump. I'm sure someone's at 1,000%.
That's a nerd alert.
That is a big nerd alert. That's a big nerd alert.
Wikipedia is a nerd alert.
That's a big nerd alert. But no, going back to, at least just to finish up the special edition thing, the Empire definitely of the three has the least alterations of any of the special editions.
And most of them are really good.
Most of them work. A lot of them is just like retouching the effects. There's like they add a Boba Fett little pursuit scene where like they have the Slave One sound from Attack of the Clones.
Classic.
So that like it fits in with Attack of the Clones. And then there's like some alterations to dialogue. They kind of open up Cloud City. A lot of the scenes like when they're like running around the building are like just all interior and like they just basically just update it.
Like so that one exterior scene of following like a speeder going throughout Cloud City, and then you kind of have like a fake Leia, like a Carrie Fisher stand in, and then you zoom in, and then that's the actual scene they filmed in 1980.
Yeah.
But
no, there's a lot of the stuff where like the effects are just like you watch the stuff your whole life, and then you watch it on a big screen with a lot of people, again, on broken record. But you just watch that and you're like, wow, like they did this in 1979, basically. They were coming up with all this, and like the effects are timeless. You don't need to update them at all because the
nearly flawless movies in
because
that way.
when you're using miniatures and like basically just moving them at high speed, like it's always a real object. So, you don't have to go in and CG retouch anything because there wasn't any CG involved. You built everything. Yeah. And that's one of the appeals of like, how the scale of all the Star Wars movies back in the day, they just made it all themselves, which is just wild to see. But it makes it like timeless.
Timeless is like the perfect way to put it. I mean, we should just go into Hoth Talk because where we start this movie, you have all the miniatures, man. We've got a Wampa, we got the Tauntauns. I mean, just generally being, I should have done like the very furthest bit more research on this. Maybe I'll ask Jonas to throw up where they filmed Hoth. It's so snowy out there, man. I mean, it really gives you the feeling that they're on a planet. Like the first snow planet, we've had a lot of kind of iterations of Hoth. I mean, it's kind of a meme in the Star Wars community that there's a lot of Hoth variants in the Star Wars universe, but there was only one to begin with, and that is Hoth. And we got to give a shout out to Hoth for being a terrifying environment. And I don't know why the rebellion chose Hoth. It's really just like, come on, guys. Like we got to think a little bit ahead of time. Like, are we really going to Antarctica for this? The equivalent of that?
Yeah, canonically, I wouldn't know, but I'm sure from like a actual like filmmaking perspective, that they're just like, cool. You know what? Luke lived in hot desert. Let's put him in cold planet environment.
But he doesn't know how to interact with the cold weather.
Yeah, so he literally just like suffers and almost dies in the cold. I'm pretty sure that's probably why. It's just like, you know what? It's something like the huge contrast between that and between the two places.
I mean, I'll throw you a curveball when Luke gets caught by the Wampa. You better hope that he gets he was probably hoping he was going to get caught by the abominable snowman from Monsters, Inc. A much kinder individual who's got snow cones. I did that because like I love that character. Throw up the abominable snowman, if you will. I did look very. This has nothing to do with Pixar. I do love Monsters Inc. But yeah, Wampa stuff happens, and he takes a bit of a chunk out of his face, which also like I guess you didn't know this before we talked about it. Mark Hamill was a part of a pretty terrible car accident in between the filming of episodes 4 and 5. And they kind of changed the aspect or worked with the plot of being like, all right, we know that he had some reconstructive surgery like Mark Hamill had to after the crash. So what better way to kind of reflect that in the Star Wars universe than having a Wampa attack you, and gives him a cool opportunity to show off the Force, a little bit of growth of his powers. I mean, that's always been the interesting thing in these movies, and I think you see a lot of it in this film, is like, I know people growing up saw Luke Skywalker as like the superhero of their time. Like, I mean, there was no Iron Man, there was no Superman on screen that was like the type of stuff we're getting in the 21st century, right? This man was many people's heroes growing up because he's taking out Wampas, he's beating the Empire, he like keeps coming up. But like, this is like one of the first times you really see him falter. Like, Luke Skywalker is getting absolutely destroyed in this movie, end to end. So much to talk about with kind of like what his body goes through too, like physical and mental trauma to a T.
Yeah, first thing I'll say is that this is another special edition change where they add those scenes of the Wampa chowing down on a bone and like noticing that Luke is like trying to move his lightsaber. Those are all, I believe, adds into the movie from the special edition.
Wild.
I know I believe in the original movie, you only see like one shot of the Wampa's head, and it's when he's like getting attacked the first time. There isn't a lot of like, there's a lot of suggestion. It's very like Jaws-like suggestion of the Wampa in the original version, but in the special editions, they want to make it way more explicit that the Wampa is like sitting there and like chowing down on things and is like, hears something and like wants to walk towards him. And then when his arm gets chopped off, they show him with getting his arm chopped off and flailing around and screaming. But yeah, Luke, this is the first time we see a back-to-tank too. Like, he's all in there. And that
got a chuckle. One guy in our viewing loved that.
That got a chuckle. Someone found that very funny, watching him in the back-to-tank, the water tank in his underwear.
Yeah. The underwear does look objectively hilarious, seeing like the evolution of back-to-tanks in the Star Wars universe, and especially animation. I mean, we got a back-to-tank recently in the Book of Boba Fett that was like actually a bed he could lay in, not some like kind of embarrassing like floaty tube where you got to put a diaper on.
Like Darth Vader's back-to-tanks are like murky water that like drain, and they emit steam and stuff, which is kind of weird. But
let's put this more in the abusive relationship between Palpatine and his ability to keep Vader angry at all times. Bro never cleaned his tank. He
never cleaned his tank, and he left the water temperature at like somewhere boiling all the time,
or even worse, just real cold. What if a back-to-tank's like consistency is like cold gel?
Yeah, this is another Wikipedia question because someone's definitely answered it.
We're going to pen Nerd Alert in here because there is no better a studio franchise to do Nerd Alerts than for Star Wars. Really got to give a shout out to what happens around the time of, I think it's right after Hoth, right? It's like when they've got him kind of, like you said, it's in the back-to-tank. It's the sibling kiss. It felt weird. It felt especially weird this time around, and everyone in the audience was like, "Oh!"
It was the one. It was the one moment. It was the one moment going into it. I'm like, I'm not looking forward to this.
Don't want this one.
I'm not looking forward to this. But I'm
Bro
glad
was not cooking on that.
I'm glad they at least established very early on that like Han and Leia are like, that's more of a thing.
He kind of plays it off too. He's kind of like, all right, cool. He's just like a kid. He's playing like a teenager that's got his first kiss.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So like Han and Leia, like that's more of the thing. Like they have such like they act so abrasive towards each other because obviously we obviously know what their like true feelings are. But it's so funny that like to make him jealous, literally kisses her brother on the lips.
Yeah. We could take it or leave it, but especially I think leaning on the way of leaving it. 100%. But Hoth, it's a fun place. Cool little planet in the Star Wars universe in general, but we've got a couple big ones coming up because they split off afterwards, and we're going to Dagobah to meet our boy Yoda. And also then that's where kind of the Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford side plot of their romance, like you said, like at the very least what you can pull out of not looking too much into the sibling kiss is that they eventually will just, their romance sparks like very quickly. I will argue, I'm going to start off talking about Han Solo and the princess here. That kiss is equally uncomfortable in this day and age, especially. I'm like,
I was thinking about that
too. We got to shout out the two because we know the love is there, but that scene in particular is very forceful.
That was funny. Yeah.
Put that man on a list. We're gonna Put them on our running list of characters that should not be doing things that they're doing.
That's true.
You're uncomfortable, bro.
You're not touching that scene with a 10-foot pole.
Oh, hell no.
These days, if you tried to put it in there. But yeah, that was funny. That was another one. I was like, ooh, this is like,
you could feel
he's
the tension.
like getting up in her space. I was like,
she's like, don't touch me,
I was like,
bro.
like, what are you doing right now? But then, yeah,
he's a scoundrel.
It's so
some
funny.
80s, like some 80s payoff is just like, oh, he's a scoundrel. We're doing that. But no, I mean, it's weird though. If you take that out of the movie, like I have to give one bigger, it's probably one of the bigger negatives of the film is like kind of that scene and how the romance starts. Because if you take it out, their romance still seems pretty palpable. Like I think that they're, generally those two are very fun to watch. Their chemistry is great on screen. I mean, that's why they took over the world and everyone loves them as a couple. But I take it or leave it. We're going to leave it with that scene as well. But let's shoot over to Dagobah because our boy is out there. Mark Hamill looking kind of yoked. He's looking kind of big. Like they got that dude to work out kind of like a superhero would like nowadays without the trend, without the steroids, allegedly. But I just was like, damn, they asked him to like lift some weights to play an older version of Luke Skywalker, wear the sleeveless shirt, and then do all the workouts with one of our favorite puppets ever made, Yoda. Shout out Frank Oz. Really one of the funniest characters, funniest performances in Star Wars as a whole, I think, is this version of Yoda in particular.
Yeah, at the beginning when he's gaslighting him.
Oh, he's like, a big guy.
Yeah, he probably invented it right there. He invented gaslighting right there.
In
he's
a galaxy
like,
far, far away.
It's like, oh, he's close. And then he's like just, rummaging through all his stuff and throwing it out and like trying to like eat his food. Like all that, a lot of those gags I don't remember. But like that's another thing that hits in the theater when like a lot of people are like laughing at the same time is like those things. You're like, okay, what's really working for people? And that was, again, just another a recurring thing. It's just like what works for people about this movie comedically was something that was fun to observe.
Well,
yeah.
And Dagobah is like a really cool kind of place. And another very cool setting, something that Empire Strikes Back really hits is that almost every single setting has got me locked in. Even when we get back onto the Han and Leia subplot romance building up, like, yeah, they're even in a really cool area. Like inside the asteroid, you're in a worm place, right? But you go back to Dagobah, real lizards, real snakes. There's like real ass animals in there. We've got to put R2-D2 through the shitter, dude, because he's got to be in the swamp for hell long before he gets spit out by whatever monster was chewing him up. Dagobah is kind of a nasty place. I mean, it's always been interesting to me that Yoda chooses one of the more strong with like the dark side planets, like he kind of talks to Luke about, right? He's like, this place is very strong with the dark side. It is my home. But like, when he talks about to exile, I will go. In episode 3, bro chose one of the worst places. He was really blaming himself for a lot of what happened in Order 66. At least that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I got no other comment on that, but yeah.
It's a shout out to Dagobah.
It's just very interesting that, when it's a place where Luke is able to confront Vader before he actually confronts Vader. That's one of the more interesting scenes. I think as a kid, I was like, wow, that scene kind of was like kind of scary. Just being like, he cuts off his head and then he sees himself in there. It's kind of like, what does that mean? Sort of thing. Yeah, It's
kind of cool.
Yeah.
In the way that when you're in the area where he's like, don't take your weapons, this guy is like out here just like telling Luke to feel his feelings out pretty much. Like it's a big therapy session, but he chose to bring his blaster and his lightsaber along with him.
I'll honestly, a line that he says before he goes in, Luke's like, what's in there? And then Yoda's like, only what you take with you. I was like, damn.
It's kind of hard.
I was like, bars.
I mean, Yoda, Frank Oz is spitting in this. Whoever was writing for Yoda, you are one of the best. You wrote one of the best characters in the entire franchise from the offset.
Was that not George? I don't know who wrote.
Give it to George.
Lawrence Kasdan. Lawrence
Kasdan.
That's who it is. Lawrence Kasdan.
Shout out. But Dagobah is very cool. It's interesting. Like I did not remember us spending as much time in Dagobah. Like on this rewatch of it, like several years after my last time, is that Dagobah like is one of the most important planets in the pantheon of Star Wars, really, for many of those reasons. But shooting back over to something with the dark side, probably the biggest, like we got to spend some time talking about, obviously, the namesake of this movie. The Empire is striking back. Darth Vader is angsty. We're getting, like I was telling you this when we got out of here, I was like, I really do feel like this is the most Anakin-coded version of Darth Vader that we get, because you only get the one scene with the Emperor like talking about how, like we said, they're gaslighting each other, but this is really Darth Vader's movie, dog. Like he is walking circles around everyone.
Like he's only on screen for, I don't know, like 15 minutes or something, 15, 20 minutes of the movie. And again, that's another thing that like I'll allude to the Nerdwriter video again. He talks about he's only on screen in like a total of like 40 minutes or something like that across the entire like 3 movies. So like, especially in this scene, every time you see him, he is doing something. Like he's like really, really asserting like his dominance over the situation. Even like, they got the whole probe droid, like the probe droid gets destroyed. And then like his first scene is like the incompetent admiral being like, oh, look at this video evidence that my captain just gave me. And he's like, nah, like this thing in front of me, like it's fine. Like there are so many uncharted systems. And then like Vader's like, no, that's it. We're going there. And then he's like, and then that's the first time he's like, all right, this is stupid. And then he goes, and then some other guy reports again about another thing the admiral did. Like he pulled in too close to the planet so like the rebels could see him, and then he just chokes him through the screen, and he dies. Honestly, that's kind of an OP move right there, because like in A New Hope, he has to grab a dude by the neck to choke him, and then he does a little bit of this to another guy
just to give him a little feeling.
But in Empire, his powers, I guess, are just so much stronger that he can like look at a guy through a screen that he knows is probably like across the hall, like hooking down another way, and he just kills him.
Yeah.
Without even actually directly seeing him. And so like he probably just knows where he is. He's like, okay, he's gonna die, and then Piet, I'm gonna promote him, and then we're just gonna keep going on our way because everyone is dumb. I'm the only smart person here. Again, like James Earl Jones is like obviously super great as Vader, but I don't think we acknowledge enough the body language of David Prowse being just like every time he
David Prowse.
Anytime he interacts with someone in this movie and like they disappoint him, which is inevitable.
Yeah.
He always just looks so like sad and like disappointed that he has to like deal with all these people. Like he's like, you know what, if I could do it all myself, I would, because like I'm the only competent person here. But
Anakin's kind of funny in this too.
Everyone
like,
sucks. Yeah, like
he's like basically in versions of killing people, he'll kill the admiral and then give the next guy up, and by telling him he's now admiral. And his admiral kill count in this movie is like 4 or 5. Like he's going through them like sardines.
He kills lots of captains.
Oh, we're talking about captains.
Kills
captains,
not admirals. But he kills one admiral because then he makes Piet the admiral, and then he's the admiral until he dies in Return of the Jedi.
Word.
But yeah, lots of captains. There's that one dude who like, for some reason, is like, I'm gonna shuttle over to his ship. I'm gonna apologize to him. I'm gonna take full responsibility.
Rookie move, dog.
And that's another very Anakin coded moment when he's like, apology accepted. After he just finishes like choking him out on the ground.
The scene like hard cuts to him dying, like getting choked out.
What's funny is that like, so he's like choking him out again, not touching him, not moving, and he's in complete pain, and then he falls over, and then the next cut, he immediately walks over to the other station, and he's like, "Got any updates?"
So talking about our 5 o'clock today.
It's just like an average part of their workday is just Darth Vader getting really upset with people, killing a captain, and then just going over to this admiral and being like, "Any updates on the Falcon?"
Yeah, it's like and everyone's kind of like looking at him like
no one even like acknowledges what just happened. He just walks over.
Because they're cooked if you acknowledge it.
Yeah,
you have to just act like you're blind to everything.
Yeah, you have to act like
you
did not see what you just saw. Yeah,
you got to test your senses on that one. The fear levels on that ship at all times heightened. I mean, it's like you can make a really good Star Wars show, I think, about just the pure fear of having to work on the Emperor or Darth Vader's Imperial Starship.
See, this is the great part about Kylo Ren's undercover boss.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
the SNL sketch.
The SNL sketch, Undercover Boss, I mean, obviously it's one of the best SNL sketches.
So
but it's that type of thing where it's like everyone's like afraid of crossing him because they know what he can do. And
they're like, you didn't know the whole time. I'm Han Solo. No.
Yeah.
I'm Kylo Ren.
He's like, I'm a radar technician. I'm Matt. That's what he calls himself.
I'm
Matt. And then like they're like, you're full of shit, Matt.
and the people who don't pick up on it, they're cooked.
Yeah.
You're like, you're donezo.
So funny.
Man. But no, Anakin is like, I'm calling him Anakin in here because again, it's like you're starting to feel like Anakin's coming back out throughout this entire film, especially if we were gonna like just shoot forward to the end, like one of the most iconic scenes in Star Wars. Like if we're gonna talk about kill count with the captains and the admirals, he's got one hand in here. He's got a son's hand. It was low-key super epic seeing that scene on the big screen for the first time. It's one of those things that you think about and you're told about a lot growing up, and obviously when you have your moment of seeing it, if you didn't have it spoiled for you, it's probably insane. Like we've talked about it many times. We talked about it especially last night when we saw it. it just if you were in the theater in 1980, not only is episode 5 getting thrown on you like, whoa, there are 3 more of these and however more afterwards, but you're like figuring out this dude is this dude's daddy. Like, who's your daddy? It is Darth Vader, the man that you are supposed to take down. Like, it's like the prophecy here is not going to get fulfilled if you're going to join the dark side necessarily, which is what Ben and Yoda are talking to him about on Dagobah before he dips. He's like, look, you leave this part early, very much like your dad. Just promise me you're not going to go to the dark side.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what people in the theaters back in the day were thinking. Like
electric.
You walk out of the theater and you go home, and like I'm sure like you're with like your friend, your significant other, or your kids. You just gotta be like, that's not true, right?
No.
Like the guy in the machine, the robot suit is the Luke's. Like you have to be thinking
number one baddie is number one hero's dad.
You gotta be thinking for like 3 years. You're like, no, they're gonna resolve that. Like when the next movie comes out, it'll be like Darth Vader is lying. He is not that. Obi-Wan actually did it or something. Something like that. Because that was like the original, like the ending that they gave on set, like famously, is that like everyone heard Obi-Wan killed your father, but like Mark Hamill has to act like he said, like he heard. That like Darth Vader's like, no, I'm your father.
Yeah.
So I think it's so funny that like the whole like even the set games, like the twist was so talking about Marvel's secrecy, like George Lucas's secrecy on that was so like crazy that like not even people on set doing the scenes.
Dude, I mean, it was revolutionary.
Yeah,
like that happening does not. Basically, if that doesn't happen, like sure, you probably have another movie along the ways that like tries to replicate that, but without the "I am your father" scene, and it's not even "I am your father," it's like what is it? Like specifically what he says.
Well, like no, I'm your father.
No, I am your father.
Yeah, it's good. When that's the most oft misquoted line, obviously, is that Luke, I am your father is obviously not what he said.
No,
it's like beam me up, Scotty, in Star Trek. No one ever says that.
No one said that.
No one ever says that.
Insane.
Yeah.
Shout out Star Trek in a Star Wars pod.
Yeah,
I've never seen any Star Trek, so there we go.
I just think, oh, really? You haven't?
Yeah, I've never seen any.
Okay.
One of my dad's favorite shows growing up. I do have to say a little bit before we jump into one of the last things we're going to talk about today, the acrobatics of basically choosing between the dark side and hoping you fall into a hole. Thank you, Luke's brain, for telling him that he should have just jumped off the edge of Cloud City pretty much into one of those like trash compactors, I imagine. But what before we get to that and we bring this episode to a close, what are your general thoughts on Billy D. Williams and the Cloud City? Because that's another thing that was really fun to see, at least for me, on screen. If you take out any of the added scenes, the filming of Cloud City, and it's just beautiful. Like when you turn around the clouds in the Falcon and you see it for the first time, it's magical. Like Cloud City is one of those settings, again, from all the settings that are really, really dope in this movie, is one of my favorites. It's probably up there with like seeing Hoth for the first time. Like, especially if you're a kid, you're getting transported to a whole nother world inside of a galaxy far, far away. You're getting your money's worth because they were really cooking with set design in this movie.
Another set that's greatly enhanced by the special editions, because like they add a lot of exterior to it. There's a lot of shots of like people, like ships flying around that are added in after the fact. But yeah, no, the aesthetic, like especially like of the sets, like all the interiors in this movie are awesome. Like the carbonite, I mean, obviously with the first scene where cool. Han's frozen in carbonite, and then when Luke and Vader meet in that, like that is like some like S tier staging of a fight, because again, like the fog is everywhere already, and it's like part of the room, and so like in the way that like the like the floor is illuminated, like the stairs,
so good,
like orange hue, like there's a lot of stuff that like you've watching the movie your whole life, but again on a big screen, broken record again. You just notice all that stuff.
Seriously.
Like when you watch it, just like any other movie you've seen in the past, like, even like year, it's like you just notice like everything, because everything is bigger. You're like, wow, like that set is like awesome.
This is one of the best Star Wars, like the fight between father and son in this movie. It's one of the best lightsaber fights and duels in the entire series.
A big step up from Ben and Vader. Hitting sticks at each other in A New Hope. It's crazy. Like obviously they got a different guy to do the Vader fights, and obviously like like Luke and Vader, like the fight choreography is like significantly more advanced than what they were doing in A New Hope, and it's probably the best lightsaber fight of the original trilogy, certainly. Because I don't think the Return of the Jedi, it's still good, but like the Empire has a lot more stuff. There's like phases to it, Where like
even when Luke like fights the bounty hunters and he gets his like green lightsaber the first time, it's fun, but it's not the same as this.
But obviously the first stage of the fight is like Vader and Luke like feeling each other out. Yeah. Vader's being like, "Oh, is my son worthy of going to the Emperor?" Sort of thing. Like, can he hold his own? And then when he prevents himself from being frozen in carbonite and jumps up and all that stuff, he's like, "Okay, I'm going to take this seriously." Then he starts just messing with them. You know, he's got the
he's a cheeky bastard.
He starts using the Force to just throw buckets at him, and I think that's just so funny. Even like the little when like the creaks go like, and then like you know, he just keeps throwing things. Keeps throwing things at people.
He ends with like this massive gas canister too that like catapults him nearly into space, like to the final space when you find out that like, you know, I am your dad.
Yeah.
But it's great. I forgot about that part of the fight entirely until rewatching it this time.
Yeah, that's the one where he just decides to F around with them.
I'm just gonna be chucking things at you, man.
But then there's like, even in that first part, I'll go back to it one more time because there's a couple of like yelling noises that Darth Vader makes that have always puzzled me.
Yeah.
They just don't sound like James Earl Jones did it or like anyone.
Ooh, conspiracy. Was it someone else?
But are also another special edition change because they are different in the 1980 version. They sound more like, like when he's like,
is it actually James?
He's getting like thrown off the ledge.
Yeah.
But then like in the newer versions, it's like fan. It always sounds like a guy going fan. That happens crazy. Like 2 times. There's like one time when like he sticks the carbonite thing in his face and he goes like, man. And then like he falls off the ledge and he goes, fan. I've never understood that. It's one of the most random things that
I got to actually look this up because I did not know about this.
The elephant. This is wild. It's like it feels like an elephant in the room that like no one ever addresses when they watch the movie. And it's like maybe such a small nitpick, but I just notice it every time I've watched it since I was a kid. I'm like, because like Darth Vader, he'll be saying his lines. He'll be like, "You have controlled your fear. Now release your anger."
Yeah.
And then he falls off a ledge. He goes, "Man."
Man.
I'm like, what is that? And it's like not a Wilhelm scream. You know, we got a few of those in like.
We love the Wilhelms in Star Wars.
A New Hope, but like this is something totally different. He uses it twice in that one scene. Never happens again. But anyway, skipping to like the end of the fight.
Oh yeah.
Because now I'm just on a tangent.
No.
Like that last part of the fight where Darth Vader's just like, "All right, I'm gonna go in. I'm just gonna beat the shit out of my son," basically.
Well, he's also like, like we talked about that emotional trauma. Like he knows what he's doing when he's like, "No, I'm your father, man." Like don't even like he's just laying in every.
He basically just
way.
Finished using all of his brute strength and like hacking him with a lightsaber as hard as he can.
Yep.
And then he hacks off his son's arm, and which cauterizes perfectly, by the way, because there's obviously no blood going. Perfect. So power of a lightsaber. But then he like just, you know, he's like giving his whole like speech like, "You should join me," while Luke is like, again on the screen, you notice it a little, you know, he's like trying to with one arm like crawl over to this little thing so
it's on like a really tiny gateway.
He's like trying to scoot himself over.
Yeah.
Something you notice when it's really big on the screen. But yeah, he gets up there and he's like, you know, like you could destroy the Emperor and stuff like that. He's got one arm gripping, and then he goes, "I am your father," and then he rejects him, and then you alluded. Another special edition change that I'm going to point out is when he falls off of the ledge.
That's a special edition change?
No, the falling is not.
Okay.
But what he...
Because no words are exchanged and he's just like, "I'm dipping."
But what he does while he's falling does change. So crazy. I think maybe in the original version there is no scream, just like the one that we saw.
Man.
But there is an addition where Luke falls, and it's the sound that the Emperor makes when he is tossed off the ledge by Darth Vader. I'm not kidding.
George was cooking.
I've seen it before, where it's like, yeah, he gets thrown, like he willingly gives himself up, and he goes like, and it's the same Emperor voice. I'm like, what is happening? There are just so many random changes that like he like he does, and then he like reneges on, and he brings back. And I'm just like, George, what are you thinking, man?
Well, you gotta imagine George is given the audio notes, like, "Oh yeah, at 2 hours and 12 minutes and 32 seconds, I need you to reuse this specific sound from episode 6. And the guy's like, "What are we doing here?" The sound engineer is like, "What are we doing here?"
Yeah.
Truly one of the greatest directors of all time. No one has ever matched his skill nor his repertoire. No, we love you, George. But it's funny. Like all of these special edition changes, again, like you said, we've said it throughout the top, especially when you see it on the big screen. It's like you just know what changed. You absolutely know what changed. But anyways, as the man himself is basically choosing death over like trying to console work with his dad. I mean, I don't know how you work with the Dark Lord of the Empire at all, especially when you're pretty much the hero of the Resistance and the Rebellion. But his ability, if I don't know if it's the Force, if that's what Wikipedia's reasoning is behind this, but he lands that like MJ would land a shot in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Like no reason why Luke Skywalker should be landing in that trash compactor so perfectly in a place where he is going to get picked up by his sister and Lando Calrissian and Chewbacca and them all. You know what I mean? It is insane. I looked at you immediately, bro. So I was like, I got to clock that. I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit, George.
Yeah. There are some things that happen. Yeah, that the whole scene of how Luke ends up where he does.
Crazy.
Because also, too, like he's like on a support. He's about to fall off the entire city and onto, through the clouds.
Again,
and
bro, this is a cloud city, bro. There's nothing underneath it.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that hatch releasing?
Seriously.
What? I mean, there's no trash in there. It's
automatic sensor?
It's completely sterile. It's completely clean. So it's not like it's a trash dump chute. So what is even happening?
What is even happening?
It's just like there's a lot of things that we just kind of like take for granted, and I will always probably most likely take for granted. But since we're talking about it, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's a weird
choice.
There's a lot of like things here and there that are just like this is a weird choice.
This feels like 1980.
And if this movie came out today, a lot of people would be like, what was that? What was that? What was that? There would be constant like Reddit threads of like new release of this movie. Like, did you guys notice this thing and this thing? Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
what's that about? What's
the
that
Letterboxd reviews would be going insane.
Yeah,
they would be wrecking.
That's where it has the benefit of like time to it. When it came out, product of its time. But at the same time, again, it is effects wise and like story wise and all this stuff. It is timeless. Yeah.
Well, it's timeless too. I mean, again, if you're looking at it either within the lenses of someone that saw it in 1980 when it came out or nowadays, I still do appreciate little bits and pieces about how they're kind of like soft throwing us the softballs that, they are siblings, that Luke and Leia are siblings. And at the very end, it's a little corny. It felt a little corny again, like you're seeing it like in the modern age versus when it was made. But when he's like, Leia, please, and then she's like, oh shit, Luke, like spin this Falcon around right now.
The whole like force sensitivity thing where they allude to it, like, Kenobi's like that boy's our last hope, and then Yoda goes like, no, there's another. Obviously, it's
so sick.
At the end of the movie, it's meant to be Leia, like very obvious, like it is Leia's force sensitive. And then in Return of the Jedi, they just never do anything with that. She never uses the force at all. It's just kind of like more of a Luke sonar that she has. That's kind of the only thing they ever do with it.
The embrace at the end. I'm like, bro. And then you try to strangle, not even to bring down the mood entirely, but episode 9, we know the CGI Leia of like training. I'm like, we didn't need that. You needed to do that back in 1983.
Yeah, you need to incorporate that in Return of the Jedi,
seriously.
Not the Rise of Skywalker, okay?
Sibling lightsaber duel with their dad. Come on. We're cooking 45 years later.
Yeah.
But generally, a great film, actually one that I think we should just jump right to the ratings.
Yeah.
Now, we get all of our titular heroes together. We all know how we get into Return of the Jedi and how fun that kind of is. But when this movie ends and the credit title rolls and we're listening to John Williams music again, I looked over at you, Chris, and I was like, that movie really holds up. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. It's 5 Darth Vaders out of 5 Darth Vaders. I mean, this movie's got so much sauce, a lot of motion, and I really think that everything that we've talked about, from the villain, obviously, and how fun Vader is in this, to like Luke and Yoda. We got Ben, Obi-Wan's back in this. I love his appearances. We didn't talk a whole lot about that. And everything between all of the characters, our favorite members. I mean, you could see entirely why this had a grip on the cultural zeitgeist of the time. Something I love talking about is like this impacted culture so much. Like people loved and attached themselves to these characters for the rest of their lives. And like they're impacting us as like kids of people that got a chance to see him when they were our age and going out in movie theaters. So I think it's a perfect movie with a lot of flaws, which is kind of an oxymoron. Obviously, it's the oxymoron of loving a movie that was produced or screenwritten by George Lucas, is that it's special in many ways and has its flaws, but still for me, a 5 out of 5. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, no, it's easy 5 out of 5.
Boom.
Yeah, give it a little heart. I mean, I don't really have to say too much more.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask, just to close this out, do you remember the first time you heard about the Darth Vader is Luke's father twist? Because I know the first time that was ever alluded to me was watching Toy Story 2, when Zurg reveals to Buzz Lightyear that he's his father.
Throw a Buzz Lightyear,
and then it's
Zurg.
like, he goes like, I am your father, and he's like, no, and then they like get separated by the elevator.
Yeah,
and then I was like, okay, like that's a thing. Obviously,
I think you're bringing out an old childhood memory of mine. It has to be my first interaction with it as well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's
just unlocked a key in my brain.
Nice.
That's awesome. Shout out Zurg,
live
dude.
on camera. But Zurg, that was where I was like, okay, like that's a thing. And then I heard from something else that like the actual like Darth Vader is Luke's father. So I never obviously watched the movie and got it from there, but because it's just like so ingrained in culture, that twist.
Yo, seriously.
Luke, I am your father. Again, oft misquoted line, but Luke, I am your father. It's just like, it's just it is culture.
It literally paved an unknowing, like just miles long concrete road for everyone else that came after them that wanted to have a twist that like kind of hit like that. Because twists, they're a dime a dozen nowadays. I can't remember the last time I was in a movie theater where I was like actually putting my like hands in my face and I was like, what is going on?
Probably Infinity War Thanos dust.
Oh, that left people crying.
Probably Infinity War Thanos dust.
When Spider-Man gets dusted off the screen, big spoilers. Go ahead and watch that movie if you haven't. Black Panther, you're like, oh, they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're doing it.
Because that movie had just come out like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's just gone. So like it's
crazy.
Yeah, crazy twist. But anyways.
I mean, I was actually going to shout out RRR as well. That's a fun little twist in the middle. I won't spoil it. But obviously there's a twist in the middle where there's kind of a tone shift at the intermission. Check out RRR. That's a great film. But Chris, shout out Zurg. I mean, Toy Story 30th anniversary. Coming out this month. We'll probably be talking about
this week as of like, because today's what, Sunday the
We'll get our tickets.
7th?
We'll get our tickets.
Yeah.
We got a lot of good
that comes out this Friday, I think. Yeah.
Comes out this Friday. A lot of good stuff coming out. I mean, we will be seeing Demon Slayer soon as well. But I really.
For us tomorrow.
That'll be shout out early screening. Tyler Bowie. Might see him on a pod sometime soon as well. But Chris, it brings us to the end. We've given our ratings. The Empire Strikes Back. Very special movie. Maybe we'll keep doing some more of these retrospectives. I think we might try to catch The Force Awakens when SIFF is still showing. I'd love to. The Last Jedi. Talk about something that doesn't get anyone riled up on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Force Awakens is a good
one. Force Awakens is a good one.
For a lot of people, it was the first like Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. I was fortunate enough as a kid to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters for like fully like
It's so sick that you got to do
It was
that.
the first PG-13 movie I ever saw.
That's
in a theater. But I remember The Force Awakens was the first time where I really like, I think for a lot of people really felt like the importance and like the gravity of like seeing a Star Wars movie in the theater again. And so that'll be a whole other discussion if we ever do that episode. But that was a crazy week for sure. Even a crazy like month lead up to it. Again, I don't want to give away any more.
No.
But yeah, that's
crazy.
Yeah.
Chris, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Pinoys versus the World. If you haven't yet, if you made it to the end, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. As always, executively produced by Jonas Hilseth. Another fun one to edit. But Chris, thanks again for talking about The Empire Strikes Back today, a movie that we just love a lot. So how about it? We're going to end the episode by saying, my name is Harald Hilseth.
My name is Chris Ankiko.
And we will talk with you all in the next episode of Pinoys versus the World. Peace.